Thank you. Hello to everybody. So it was probably a good thing that I would have the shortest straw because I'm I'm here for a week and then absent for a few weeks and then here for a week. So while I'm here, it was probably the right time to have the opportunity to do it. So after everything which Mr. Keshe already told you, I chose to have a closer look at the structure of the light at the second book, because when Mr. Keshe told us that, now move away from the soldering, the diodes, the resistors, the capacitors, the batteries, the LEDs, the motors. He said, "This is old. This all is old hat. It's all old technology." And in fact, last night I took a look at Wikipedia because he said, even the LEDs that's passé. It's old. Now, while the whole technology in the world is now moving to LEDs. And then I took a look at Wikipedia, and I found that the principle of the light-emitting diode was described for the first time in 1907, and that the first working LED was made in 1927. And then it was forgotten about for a number of decades until it was, rediscovered in the 1960s. So indeed, it's almost 100 years, it's more than 100 years ago that the principle was discovered, and almost 100 years ago that the first LED was made. And it was made, the little wire that we have in a LED now was, at the time, it was a cat whiskers. And it was a Russian who made it, a Russian scientist. So that's why I decided, since Mr. Keshe told us light can be made directly from the all the materials, the ganses, the nanomaterials, everything that you have in the lab. He says, if you understand it, it takes you 10 minutes to make a light-emitting device. But it turns out we don't understand it enough yet to do that. Now, when I took the book, The Structure of the Light, I did read it thoroughly a few months ago. The most important sentence in the book, The Structure of the Light, to me seems to be, man has come from the light, exists through the light, and shall return to the light. That is like the most profound thing that I found in that book. Now, to get to the technology, of the light, or the structure of the light, rather. First of all, Mr. Keshe explains that the light is a magnetic gravitational entity, because we can see that it is subject to gravitational positioning. So obviously, what I'm saying here, few of you or many of you who have, read this book in depth will not find anything new in what I'm saying. But, even for me, just looking again at the book, even though I read it in depth a few months ago, then you see a few things again, which you see in the new light of new things that you have, new insights that you've gained in the meantime, and so it does shed a new light anyway. So the gravitational positioning, to quickly come back to that word first of all, this is what Mr. Keshe explained, that let's say the moon is where it is as in connection with the Earth, because that is the speed and the distance and the position at which the magnetic and gravitational forces are in equilibrium. Now, since we see the process of what is called lensing, which means that the light bends around and is not, going straight to stars and other celestial objects and being absorbed by it, but rather goes around them. That is a sign of gravitational positioning. So that shows that the light in itself is a magnetic gravitational entity, that it has a magnetic field and a gravitational field, and let's say an atmosphere. In other words, light is not energy, because energy is plasmatic fields in motion. So light is, as Mr. Keshe describes it, he says it's a physical plasma entity, comparable to the plasma of a proton or an electron, but not in shape. And then he states, if this was not the case, then the light would never be able to travel all the way through the universe. It would be absorbed, hitting objects, stars, galaxies, and it would never make it to the other side of the universe. But when light travels in the matter environment, the friction of the fields of the light with the matter environment's fields release tiny residual fields, as Mr. Keshe calls them, which are in the range as the human eye's retina cells proteins field strength. And so these residual fields is actually what we can observe. Only that is what we can observe. Now, coming back to how the light is created, because that should give us a hint as to how we can create light with what we have available. Mr. Keshe states in the book that when spherical, so that is a ball shape, magnetic fields interact, and he says this can lead to the creation and release of cylindrical magravs of light. So this word "can," in my opinion, is this is our struggle. So when these fields interact, it doesn't necessarily release cylindrical magrav fields. It can release cylindrical magrav fields. So we will have to find the right circumstances when this can becomes a reality, when in fact, this does release cylindrical magrav fields of light. Yeah, there were a few things which occurred during the week, which have occurred, or which we discussed during the week, which have to do with that, because this was from before Mr. Keshe said forget about soldering and condensers and etc. etc. And so I was trying to make electricity by as we all have, by in this case it was layering copper coated nano-coated copper and touching it with aluminum foil. And I found that when I was measuring the current that created them, if I squeezed it between my fingers, the more I pressed it, the higher the voltage and the current became. And then Mr. Keshe said, well, what you're doing is you're actually squeezing the layers, and you can only squeeze it so much, like a lemon. And when it's empty, so to say, you've squeezed 10,000 layers, or how many you can squeeze. then nothing more will come. So then Mr. Keshe was explaining us, this is now back to the creation of light, that in fact these nanolayers of the nanolayers on copper can be used to create light if we force other plasma fields through these gaps. And first of all, he told us something that when he was mentioning that, I said, oh yeah, you mentioned that, or I thought rather, I didn't say it, you mentioned that 2 years ago, or minimum 2 years ago in Belgium, I heard, 2.5 years ago, that if you nanocoat a copper wire and you melt out the copper so that you're just left with the nanocoating, this has special properties of for electrical conduction. But in this case, Mr. Keshe was saying that if you would be able to have a tiny piece of this nano coating without the copper inside, and you would squeeze through, for instance, CH3 GaNs plasmatic fields, the friction inside would create light. And to pressurize it, as he was showing with the magnets, you have to use some bigger fields, like the fields of CO2, for instance, or copper oxide. So this is a way of thinking to create light, or as Mr. Keshe mentioned earlier in this workshop, by only using ganses and not nanolayers. Last night also, I came across an interesting concept. Some companies for some years have been working on working to develop glowing plants using they call it luciferin, I think, which fireflies use, and incorporating that in plants. So they have, to a certain extent, been able to develop plants which produce light. Then something else I was going to mention, but Mr. Keshe already mentioned that. He said it's when you mix ganses with the idea to create light or heat, because finally, the infrared range is so close to the light and it's heat. It's important that the water between the GaNs materials is in a GaN state too, and not in a matter state, because then it will block or make it difficult for the plasmatic fields of the GaNs materials to rotate and to interact. And then I asked, if in the containers what about the water in the containers, like where we do the production of the CO2 GaNs and other ganses? He said, yes, in these containers, the water is in GaN state. But also, what he mentioned again, if you drink water in the stomach, there is a plasmatic field, and this is created by the enzymes the stomach creates, and partially the saliva as well, which will instantly change the water into GaN's state of water. So all by all, we are still searching for the right understanding how to create light from interaction of plasmatic fields. So, and then I come back to this one sentence, which is probably the most important in this respect that I found in the book. When spherical magritte fields interact, this can lead to the creation and release of cylindrical magrittes of light. And obviously in the book, but this may not be the most relevant to what we are searching for right now. There is the traveling of light through the universe. So the different, so in the center of these cylindrical of the cylindrical composition of the light, in the center normally is the principal matter, and then around it the transition matter, and then around it the matter state. But the light can, as Mr. Keshe calls it, act as a chameleon and change these layers around to adapt to the medium it's traveling through. And so light is not bound to the speed of light in the matter environment as we know it, but if it's traveling in transition environment or principal environment, it can change its outer layer to these environments and adapt to it, and then reaches almost instantaneously from any corner of the universe, which is a totally opposite to what the science is saying nowadays, that it takes light years, so many light years to reach us. So this is about as far as I wanted to go, and I want to end with this sentence that I started with. We have come from the light. We operate through the light, and mankind, have to return to the light. So maybe there's a question or some questions that I may or may not be able to answer.
Actually, I just have a statement, and that is recently published a finding that they had, I'm talking about mainstream science, that they detected a X 100,000 flare off of a star that is quote unquote 60 light years away. And that star, in my opinion, the light or the X-rays that they were detecting wouldn't take that long to get here to be able to be detected by detectors that they have. So what that's saying is that they are seeing it as it happens, as we've discussed before in these workshops, and they're just not understanding that. So that also could mean that because they say that it's 60 light years away, it could be much, much closer or much, much further away. And we have to develop tools to actually be able to measure that distance in terms of what we like. In terms of the gravitational magnetic field of that star, of course, we need different tools for that, say if we wanted to go there. So yes, I just wanted to bring that up and let people know that they did detect another star. This is the first time that they detected an X flare or a flare at all off of another star. So they are getting to the point that they're understanding that they can actually detect these things. So maybe they'll change their way of thinking in the future, especially with this latest information with the Keshe Foundation and the technology.
Okay, so that was my brief expose on the light and the structure of the light. I think I'll pass the microphone back to Mr. Keshe, because I saw that when I was mentioning this cylindrical fields can be released. He was writing down something. He wanted to say something about that, I think.
We'd also like to get Brett to ask his question once we have a moment.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much, Ivan. This is how we're going to do presentations from now on. Trying to cover a topic. And if we have something physically new to show, we show. Then instead of just to be there on the line to say something. And I think this puts more quality into the work than actually just filling time. What was just said by Ivan about if you put in a plasmatic and changes to ray, it's very, very simple. If you've been to these coin machines where you put a 1 cent or 1 euro or 1 cent, euro cent, into the machine, and then it comes out the other way, a very long piece of coin. It becomes elongated coin. I don't know if you've done that in children's playground. You can put like a 5 cents in, and then 5 cents goes through 2 rollers and become an elongated 5 cents. This is exactly what happens to you in the ray of light. When the magnetic fields are stronger, as they are plasmatic and cylindrical or spherical, the other lights which are weaker become like the coin which goes through 2 rollers and become elongated. So you don't travel in the speed of trying to come over. If you throw the coin, it's a spherical shape that it has to go to resist, to overcome the resistance of the air. But now that you made it like an arrow by strength, but elongated it, now it goes much faster. It's like an arrow. The same thing happens to the ray of light. Ray of light becomes elongated through the magnetic field, and with the beauty that the arrow has to be thrown, but a plasmatic gravitational field as a ray, it gets pulled by the point of destination gravitational magnetic field strength matching. So what this means is you don't need energy to throw the light to be seen, but you receive the ray of light according to your own gravitational magnetic field, which is at your strength. This is why this nonsense about 20,000 years, 100,000 years has no meaning. What you see on the surface of or as a light of a star is literally instantaneous what the light has released. Because it's not the first time the light has been released by the star. This light is continuously released. And when you tune according to the gravitational magnetic field of the light of the sun and the earth, what you call at the night time, that you can visually link into it through the gravitational magnetic field, the strength of your amino acid, you see it instantaneously. It's a 0 time. What they measure 100,000 years is in matter state of the tools which are available. But what you see as a light of the point, because your body is made of plasmatic conditions, sequences of matters, your field tunes to that. Man will find out that they don't see all the matters in the universe, because not even all the matters release energy in that level. There are entities which to us is like nothing, but to the other creatures, according to gravitational magnetism, huge stars. Because we are not tuned, and the length is not, or has not reduced at the length to be at our observation. When the development of the science understanding goes further, very much as we don't see all the stars till it's dark and we can see through the atmosphere. When the man knowledge and the tools become available, we will be able to see a further development in the cycle of man, which means we'll be able to see across the wall of the universes and what's in the universes. This is the transparency of receiving the information at the wavelength which we can absorb. Because the hydrogen here, let's say atomic hydrogen, let's say neutron is 10 centimeter, because that's the base fundamental. In another universe could be 30 centimeter. But that's the fundamental matter in that universe. The fields radiated at 30 centimeter by the same gravitational magnetic field is different than what is at 10 centimeter. On Earth, let's say 15 centimeter is CO2, 25 centimeter is copper oxide. So the energy of one neutron in that galaxy, in that universe, is beyond copper, which is not detectable by us. This is what man will understand very soon. And this is what you tune to the point of position. This is what I said before. When I dial a telephone number, I dial in a certain location where it is, and it doesn't matter where it is, that phone receives, doesn't matter who carries the phone. Telephones are not made man destination, these are made for Mr. So-and-so in such a country. It's location, destination, number, according to what electronically as an electron current, whatever has been sent to be received by it. It's the same with the universes, with the galaxies. People who don't understand at the moment, to them is crazy because they're crazy themselves, they don't have the knowledge. As I always say, this technology will be understood according to the intelligence and understanding of the man. It goes back to the same thing as 18th century, 19th century. They said if you go faster than 25 miles an hour, your eyes will pop out and your ears will collapse. And we used to have a man with a flag walking in front of the car. So those people who to them is the same is because of the mentality of the scientists at that time. They're waiting for their eyes to pop out.